How did the CIA find a wounded American aviator hiding inside an Iranian mountain, when hundreds of Iranian troops searching the same terrain couldn't find him? It comes down to a classified technology called ghost murmur, developed in secret by Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division. It doesn't use radar. It doesn't use satellites. It detects the electromagnetic signal of a beating human heart from miles away. But this brings up a bigger question. How does a sensor pick up a heartbeat from 40 miles across an open desert, when that same signal normally can only be measured inside a hospital room with sensors pressed directly against the chest? This is the Zagros Mountains region of southern Iran. Remote desert terrain, almost no electromagnetic interference, temperatures that plunge sharply at night. In April 2026, a U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down during a combat sortie over hostile Iranian territory. The weapons system officer, publicly identified only as Guy 44 Bravo, survived the shoot-down. He ejected, reached the ground alive, and activated his Boeing Combat Survivor Evader Locator Beacon, also known as the CSEL. But the beacon signal alone wasn't enough to pinpoint his exact position among the canyon ridgelines. He then did what his survival training required. He found a narrow rock crevice in the Zagros Canyon wall, compressed himself into it, went silent, and waited. Iranian forces, aware that a significant reward was on offer for his capture, deployed hundreds of troops to scour an area of roughly 1,000 square kilometers of remote desert. For 2 days, they searched. For 2 days, they found nothing. The CIA had a different problem. They knew he was out there. They just didn't know exactly where. This is stage 1, the shoot-down and evasion. The F-15E Strike Eagle is a 2-seat, dual-role strike fighter built by McDonnell Douglas, now operated by Boeing. It carries a crew of 2, a pilot, and a weapons system officer, and is designed for deep interdiction missions into heavily defended airspace. The variant deployed in this operation carries a combat radius of approximately 685 miles, which is around 100 kilometers, and is capable of carrying more than 23,000 pounds of mixed ordnance. When the aircraft went down over southern Iran, the weapons system officer's ejection seat fired automatically. The Martin Baker ACES Tuiku ejection seat activates in under 0.1 seconds, propelling the occupant clear of the aircraft at speeds the airframe can no longer sustain. Guy 44. Bravo reached the ground alive and functional enough to move. He activated the CSEL beacon. The Boeing Combat Survivor Evader Locator is a handheld radio and GPS device that broadcasts an encrypted locator signal to overhead assets. But in mountainous terrain, GPS signals bounce and scatter. The beacon placed him somewhere in a zone, not at a specific coordinate. Iranian forces mobilized within hours. He went dark and still. But if he had to stay completely hidden to survive, how could any rescue team find him without exposing his position? This is stage 2. Ghost murmur activation. The CIA deployed a sensor platform designated Ghost Murmur, a quantum magnetometry array mounted aboard a modified Black Hawk airframe. The system was developed by Lockheed Martin's Skunk Works division, the same advanced development programs group responsible for the U-2 Putin II reconnaissance aircraft, the SR-71 Suanti Blackbird, and the F-1-17 Nighthawk. Ghost Murmur is built around synthetic diamond chips containing microscopic lattice defects at the atomic scale. These defects, known as nitrogen vacancy centers, or NV centers, are points in the crystal structure, where a nitrogen atom replaces a carbon atom adjacent to a vacancy in the lattice. At this scale, the chip enters a quantum coherence state that makes it sensitive to magnetic fields approximately 1 billion times weaker than the field generated by a standard refrigerator magnet. The human heart generates a rhythmic electromagnetic pulse at approximately 1 to 2 cycles per second as it contracts and releases. In a standard urban environment, that signal is completely overwhelmed by competing electromagnetic sources, power lines, vehicles, electronic equipment, and other human bodies. But in the Zagros Desert at night, with almost no competing electromagnetic signatures and a sharp thermal contrast between a living body and the cold desert floor, the conditions were close to ideal. The sensor isolated a single heartbeat signature from 40 miles away. But how exactly does a diamond chip detect a heartbeat from 40 miles away? Let's take a look at how Ghost Murmur actually works. The sensor chip is cooled and stabilized until it reaches quantum coherence. In this state, the nitrogen vacancy centers in the diamond lattice become extremely sensitive to any perturbation in the surrounding magnetic field. Step 1. The beating heart generates a rhythmic electromagnetic pulse. The NV center array registers this pulse as a deviation in its quantum spin state. The deviation is extraordinarily small, measured in femtoteslas. A femtotesla is 1 quadrillionth of a Tesla. For comparison, the Earth's magnetic field is approximately 50 microteslas. A human heartbeat generates a field of roughly 100 femtoteslas at close range, dropping sharply with distance. Step 2. The raw sensor data is fed into an AI signal processing layer in real time. The software runs pattern-matching algorithms against known human cardiac signatures and rejects competing signals from geological sources, atmospheric electromagnetic variation, and any animal movement in the sensor's field of view. Step 3. The AI layer cross-references the filtered cardiac signal with the last known vector from the CSEL beacon. When both signals align within a defined confidence threshold, the system outputs a triangulated position lock. Step 4. That position lock is transmitted to CIA analysts. Confidence threshold met. Signal passed up the chain. But how did Iranian forces with hundreds of troops and full knowledge of the crash site fail to locate him for 2 full days? The answer is terrain. The Zagros Mountains are not open desert. They are a corrugated system of parallel ridge lines, deep canyon cuts, and shadow-filled crevices that defeat standard visual and thermal search patterns. A man compressed into a narrow crack in the canyon wall presents almost no thermal signature from above. He absorbs and reflects the same thermal mass as the surrounding rock during the day. At night, the temperature differential helps Ghost Murmur find him from altitude, but it actually helps him avoid Iranian ground patrols, because the crack itself masks his body heat from handheld thermal devices at ground level. The search pattern Iranian forces used was optimized for finding a person moving across open terrain. It was not optimized for finding a person who had not moved in 48 hours. This is stage 3. Technical confirmation and the go signal. Ghost Murmur's position lock was cross-referenced with the CSL beacon's last known vector by CIA analysts at a forward intelligence node. The match confirmed it. Guy 44, Bravo, was alive, stationary, and inside a specific crevice in the canyon wall, at a coordinate precise enough to plan a direct extraction. CIA Director John Ratcliffe transmitted the confirmation directly to Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth. The President authorized the rescue operation. What followed was one of the largest combat search and rescue packages assembled since the Bat-21 rescue operation in Vietnam in 1972. Hundreds of Special Operations personnel, multiple HH-60G Pave Hawk helicopters, and combat rescue officers were dispatched into Iranian airspace. The HH-60G Pave Hawk is the primary combat search and rescue platform operated by the U.S. Air Force. It carries a crew of 4, has a combat radius of approximately 295 nautical miles, and is equipped with a forward-looking infrared sensor terrain-following radar, and an in-flight refueling probe. It is purpose-built for exactly this kind of mission, recovering downed aircrew from denied territory under active threat conditions. But what happened when two of those rescue aircraft became stranded on Iranian soil? This is Stage 4, extraction under fire and controlled destruction. Two rescue aircraft were forced down in the extraction zone. The exact cause, whether mechanical failure or terrain-related landing difficulty, has not been publicly confirmed by the Department of Defense. But the effect was immediate and serious. The U.S. now faced a compound problem. Recover Guy 44 Bravo and prevent Iran from capturing intact American aviation technology. Standard U.S. combat search and rescue doctrine is explicit on this point. If recovery of downed U.S. equipment is not tactically feasible, that equipment is to be destroyed in place before it can be exploited by a hostile force. The rescue force did not hesitate. Both stranded aircraft were demolished on-site before Iranian units could reach the extraction zone. Additional aircraft were scrambled to complete the operation. The full extraction was executed with 0 American casualties. Guy 44. Bravo was pulled from the crevice and brought home. Now, speaking of things that track you without you knowing, there's a different kind of signal problem that affects all of us every day. Every time you go online, data brokers collect, package, and sell your personal information to anyone willing to pay for it. Your name, your address, your phone number, your browsing habits, all of it, packaged and sold without your consent. That's where our sponsor Incogni comes in. Incogni works on your behalf to contact data brokers and demand they remove your information from their databases. It handles the requests, tracks the removals, and keeps working, so your data doesn't keep resurfacing. You can use the link in the description to get started and take back some control over what's out there about you. But back to the desert. Because what happened after Ghost Murmur locked the signal changed everything about how the U.S. planned the extraction, and the doctrine revealed by the aircraft destruction decision has implications that go well beyond this single mission. The decision to destroy the stranded aircraft rather than attempt to fly them out reflects a standing calculation that U.S. forces rehearse for every combat mission into denied airspace. Aircraft like the HH-60G carry sensitive navigation systems, communications encryption hardware, and sensor packages that, if captured intact by a state-level adversary like Iran, would provide significant intelligence value. Iran has demonstrated a willingness and a technical capacity to reverse engineer captured U.S. hardware. In 2011, a classified RQ-170 Sentinel reconnaissance drone came down largely intact in eastern Iran near Kashmir. Iranian engineers subsequently produced what they claimed was a reverse-engineered version of the aircraft, designated the Shahed 171 Simorgh. The U.S. was not willing to repeat that outcome with rescue aircraft carrying systems of comparable sensitivity. But could Ghost Murmur have applications beyond rescue operations? And does Iran now know the full scope of what the technology can do? Let's take a look at the broader implications of deploying Ghost Murmur in an active theater. The sensor's ability to detect a single human heartbeat at 40 miles in a low electromagnetic environment has obvious offensive applications. A system that can locate a hidden individual with that precision could, in theory, be used to pinpoint the position of a high-value target sheltering underground or inside a fortified structure, provided the target environment has sufficiently low electromagnetic interference. The Zagros Mountains provided near-ideal conditions. A dense urban environment like Tehran would be far more challenging. Competing electromagnetic signatures from millions of people, vehicles, and electrical infrastructure would require significantly more advanced AI filtering to isolate a single target. Whether Ghost Murmur has been optimized for that kind of environment is not publicly known. What is known is that the system has been tested aboard Black Hawk platforms for potential integration with the F-35 Lightning II. The F-35 carries an advanced sensor suite that includes the electro-optical targeting system and the distributed aperture system, a network of 6 infrared cameras that gives the pilot a spherical view of the surrounding airspace. Adding a quantum magnetometry layer to that suite would mean that a future downed pilot in any theater could potentially be located by the very escort aircraft flying above the crash site, dramatically compressing the time between shoot-down and confirmed survivor location. But how does AI software separate a single heartbeat from 1,000 square kilometers of desert electromagnetic noise with enough confidence to authorize a major rescue operation? The answer lies in the layered architecture of the signal processing system. The AI filtering layer doesn't try to find a heartbeat directly. It first maps the electromagnetic baseline of the entire search area, identifying and categorizing every persistent signal source, geological, atmospheric, and any animal or equipment signatures within range. It then runs a subtraction pass, removing the baseline from the raw sensor data. What remains are anomalies. Most anomalies are rejected immediately by pattern recognition. They don't match the 1 to 2 cycles per second rhythm of a human cardiac pulse. The ones that do match are flagged. Each flagged signal is then subjected to additional filtering passes that evaluate consistency. The heartbeat rhythm of a living person is slightly variable in a way that geological or mechanical sources are not, duration, and correlation with the beacon vector. By the time a signal reaches a CIA analyst for confirmation, it has already passed through multiple automated rejection layers. The confidence threshold for a position lock requires all layers to agree. In the Zagros Mountains, in a low electromagnetic environment, with a CSL beacon providing a directional constraint, all layers agreed. Ghost Murmur has been tested aboard Black Hawk platforms for potential F-35 integration, meaning future downed pilots in any theater could be located by the very aircraft flying escort above them. The technology deployed in the Zagros Mountains was not a one-off solution. It is a capability that the U.S. military now considers part of its standard combat search and rescue toolkit for future operations in denied airspace. We also made a deep dive into the full U.S.-Iran air war and how the F-15E Strike Eagle was shot down in the first place. So subscribe for more videos to not miss a beat.